Guys, today we are reacting to Indonesia and how the Dutch shaped Indonesia. So if you are from Indonesia, apa kabar? If you are from the Netherlands, hello? Dag? How do you say hello in Dutch? Let me know in the comments. Okay, without further ado, this video is from a channel called The Present Past. The link is in the description as always. Let's check this out.
This is Indonesia, a fascinating country you never heard of. And it wouldn't have
You never heard of?
without the Dutch. Indonesia is huge. It's the fourth biggest in population, the biggest Muslim country in the world. The country has a great variety of cultures, religions, and people in their borders. But these borders have not been shaped by Indonesian peoples. They are a direct legacy of their colonial past, shaped by Dutchmen in their greedy quest for wealth. What is weird is that these borders were only finished a few decades before Indonesia won its independence. And these colonial borders and the resources within them give Indonesia trouble to this day.
Really?
So how did these borders come into being? How do they influence the present? How did we get here?
I like the editing of this video. The present past.
I'm in the Indische buurt in Amsterdam. This is a place where the streets are named after possessions the Dutch had in the East Indies.
Wow. I saw a street called Java. This is in the Netherlands.
This part of the city was built in the 1900s, and it sort of coincides with the end of the Dutch imperial project in Indonesia. With it, the city seems to show that all these far-flung places are actually part of one grand unified theme. The only problem with that is that it's a total construct. It is a construct that we call Indonesia.
Indonesia.
This name, meaning Indian island, was used in the 1800s by English researchers. The Dutch preferred to call it the Netherlands East Indies. India, or just the East.
Really?
A construct that was only finished after a colonial project of subjugation, blood and extraction that lasted 350 years.
350 years.
Of course, the history of the region doesn't start when the Europeans arrive. Indonesia has been at the crossroads of international trade for millennia. Take this 100-year-old batik. Batik is a decorative technique that originates in Java, but the cloth they made it with came all the way from India. Trade brought religion, Buddhism, Hinduism, Islam. In honor of these religions, great shrines were built. But this was in no means a unified territory. Across the 70,000 or so islands that make up modern Indonesia, there was a huge number of kingdoms and sultanates.
70,000 islands. That is a lot. I think Indonesia is the country with most islands, if I'm not mistaken.
The Hindu-Buddhist Majapahit Empire from the 1300s looks the most like modern-day Indonesia. It had a strong core and kingdoms that were aligned with it. But it was already long gone when the Europeans arrive. They come for these spices that can be found in the Moluccas. First the Portuguese and then the Dutch arrive. In the end, the Dutch conquer a huge part of the archipelago. They didn't really set out to conquer all this land. They just wanted spices at first. But an unexpected change made them slowly embrace a way bigger imperialistic goal.
Bro, you know what's funny is that Europeans have traveled the entire globe in search of spices, but they don't use it. I've never seen a European spice or season their chicken. I've never seen that before.
This imperialistic project went in 5 phases.
But then again, I live in the UK. English food is a little bit bland, so, you know. The monopoly, 1595
First,
to
the Dutch
1700.
tried very hard to gain a monopoly on the spice trade, because that's what makes the most money. They do this with a private company.
Okay, now it all comes together. They didn't want to use the spice, they just wanted to trade the spice. So that's why the chicken is very bland, the food is very bland, because they sell all the spices, they don't use it. Obviously, I'm joking.
The Dutch East India Company, or VOC. Along the way,
VOC.
they actually invented stocks and the stock market. but they're there for spices like cinnamon, cloves, pepper, and nutmeg.
Oh,
They
okay.
use them to cook and for medicine.
Okay.
How fortunate that you can't find nutmeg anywhere in the world but here. I have to tell you a
Nice.
bit about what an insane company this VOC was, what they could do. Because they could enter into diplomatic relations, they could declare war, they could invade lands, keep a standing army.
I've seen that symbol before. Bro, that is some... That's what the... I've seen that symbol. Where have I seen that symbol before?
Imagine Apple one day just deciding to invade China.
But there is one more thing.
The Dutch start with trade though. They made a contract with the Bandanese, where the nutmeg grows. But these people, they understood market capitalism, so they also traded with the English. And that really pisses the Dutch off, big time. Remember, they're here for monopoly. They can't have people trading with everyone. The governor, Jan Pieterszoon Koen, hires Japanese samurai to butcher village elders. They depopulate the complete islands. Thousands die in this genocide.
My
At
goodness.
home, not everyone was pleased. The predecessor of Koen said, "In an empty sea, on empty lands, with dead people, you can't make a profit." But that's not what Koen thought.
Who is worse? The people killing or the people thinking that you can enslave the people for your own benefit and profit? That is horrible. You know, man, those times, the Middle Ages were crazy. Bro. Wow. Man, I'm interested. Is Indonesia... I mean, Indonesia is one of the most kind and generous countries out there. But do you have a little bit of, I don't know, resentment towards the Dutch? Is that a thing in Indonesia? Because I know that in some other countries, people have some type of anger towards the people who colonized. I'm speaking out of experience because I've seen so many people from my country, Brazil, complain about Portugal. And I've also seen a lot of people from India complain about the British, asking for the diamond and the gold back. You know, that's also something that happened in my country. So is that type of debate still going on today? Like, or does Indonesia have a very friendly relationship with the Dutch and vice versa? Does the Dutch also love Indonesia? Do you have any treaty? How does that work? If you can enlighten me, let me know in the comments.
Next to subjugating complete islands, the Dutch also strike deals with local kings and sultans. They can keep their throne, as long as they serve the Dutch. And in the end, the Dutch make it. They have a monopoly on the spice trade. Finally. And then, well, tastes change. Suddenly, these heavy stews of medieval times that needed a lot of spices are not so popular anymore. They are replaced by French cuisine, truffles, oysters, crab. Has all the bloodshed been for nothing?
Oh my
so what
goodness.
do the Dutch do with this tropical destination?
Plantations. Wow, okay, so, oh, you're telling me that they used all of the resources they could, and then because it was a trend, it was a popular dish, and then when people grew tired of the food and they went on to another another trend, then they moved on to using the country for something else. Bro, this is so messed up. They're basically using a whole nation for their own bro. There are so many things going in my mind because these things still happen today. Wow. These things still happen today. Bro, you see many of the first world countries using third world country resources for their own growth and benefits, like the iPhone, being produced in mass in a third world country and stuff like that. That is insane that this still happens today, where so many people are in dire straits and poor working conditions, just so some rich guy can get his t-shirt. I don't know. That's crazy, bro. That's crazy. That's why I don't like big brands. You see, I'm a very simple guy. I wear anything that covers my body. Oh wow. But anyways, that's a whole nother topic.
Well, the people in the 1700s do want sugar, tobacco, cacao, tea, coffee, but compared to spices, these crops have one problem. They are built on plantations that need land, a lot of land. So suddenly the Dutch need to expand their base of operations. They start more wars to claim land and expand their colonial possession. Do you have any idea why a cup of coffee is sometimes called a cup of Java? Well,
Is
the
it?
Dutch,
I've
they
never heard
produce
that
coffee on
before.
this island. For some time, they become the biggest exporters of coffee of the whole world.
I know that Indonesia has a type of coffee that is made from poop. What is the name? Kawak, something like that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Chinese planters produce sugar, tobacco is planted. The Dutch, they had started with a few outposts, but are now growing into a bigger colonial state. And it works, they're making money again. But the frenzy, it doesn't last. It turns out that you can make sugar and coffee in other places. They don't have a monopoly, and the cost of maintaining a huge empire is just too high. In 1799, the VOC goes bankrupt. And at the
Wow,
same time,
that's good.
the Netherlands are overrun by Napoleon. Is this
Wow.
the end of the Dutch colonial project in the Indies?
Chapter 3. Birth of the Nil?
Well, not really. Occupation of the Indies continues. First a brief stint under French and then English rule. Later, when Napoleon is defeated, the Dutch get their colony back. And they get a present. While they were away, a governor started this whole new thing. A colonial army, with recruits drawn from all over the archipelago. It is called the KNIL. A lot of
KNIL.
recruits sign up from the Moluccas. Because that spice trade that wasn't so lucrative anymore, they needed a job. And the Dutch, they had some ideas how to use this new army.
Bro.
Because this is really a time the Dutch are occupying even more land in archipelago. Why so? Well, the Napoleonic conquest ravaged the Netherlands. The new Dutch king, he needs a source of income. And where does he look? The Dutch Indies, of course. He wants money. He starts to lease land to farmers to tax them. And he also works with the local kings. But that doesn't end well. The kings exploit their farmers. So much that even the Dutch think it's going too far. So they end this arrangement. And that really pisses off the kings. So you have this prince, Diponegoro, who starts a huge war in Java. He wages this guerrilla war for 5 years and the Dutch retaliate. 200,000 people die, mostly of starvation. It's one of the last times that local elites try to resist Dutch advances, but they are crushed in the end. And just when the situation seems to be under control in Indonesia, the Belgians secede from the northern Netherlands. They want to be an independent country. Like whatever, do what you want, we don't need you. But now the Dutch king needs even more money to finance a costly war. Where should all this money be coming from?
That's another thing. The Netherlands and Belgium, there is something there. There's a little bit of friction there when you talk about Belgium and the Netherlands. Do you guys also have like some type of discussions sometimes?
Well, this king got a brilliant idea. What if we tax the local population? They shouldn't give money, but culture goods. Coffee, cacao, rubber. They may not have money, but they can farm.
Greed, for lack of a better word, is good.
So suddenly the whole population of Java, the farmers, had to use 1/5 of their plots to make these culture goods. If you couldn't or didn't have a farm, you had to work 66 days for years in a government plantation.
Wow.
This was called the cultuurstelsel. And for the Dutch, the cultuurstelsel becomes a huge success. Up to half of the total revenue for the Netherlands in the 1850s comes from the cultuurstelsel. Half. But Dutch and local rulers squeeze the local population and ask more and more of the farmers. These farmers can't even make enough rice, which leads to famines. And the system leads to an outcry by a colonial employee, Multatuli. He writes this book, Max Havelaar, that describes the atrocities in the colony. It really resonates in the Netherlands with all the injustice done to the locals and slowly means an end to the government-led cultuurstelsel. But is this the end of the exploitation? No.
So the people, the population, the Dutch people, they wanted this to end, right? So I think that played a huge part. The Dutch are also very kind people. I've been to the Netherlands, and you know, they're very, very respectful. Imperialism.
Dutch private corporations jump in the hole left by the cultuurstelsel. They build plantations that need more and more land. And the Dutch are ready to get it. Between 1816 and 1914, the KNIL launches some 200 military expeditions.
Bro.
Some are small, and some are endless. Over half the final colony is conquered in this period. And this is really also what's happening in the rest of the world. In 1800, European powers only occupied about 30% of the world. In 1914, 84%. Changes in the world have repercussions in the colony. When the Suez Channel is opened in 1869, the far edges of this region suddenly become super important.
I was reading something, I think only around 8 countries in the whole entire world were not colonized. Only 8 countries.
Ships that used to arrive from the southwest suddenly start arriving through the Strait of Malacca, next to the Sultanate of Aceh.
Aceh.
Aceh is a strong, independent state with a strict interpretation of Islam, and they want to keep it that way. They fiercely resist the Dutch advances. It takes 40 years of war and the lives of 100,000 people to pacify this stretch of land.
Oh my goodness.
When General von Heuts, one of the Dutch heroes of this war, dies, he gets a state funeral that's only reserved for royals. Yeah, he really was a big shot. But
wow.
There we have it. Indonesia was finally completed. 300 years after their first arrival, the quest of the Dutch started with spices, transformed in an insane imperial project. A nation of 5 million people lorded over 40 million Indonesians. The colony was the biggest producer of sugarcane. They built coffee, tea, tobacco, rubber. They mined gold, extracted oil, all supported by cheap and plentiful labor from the colonies in China, breaking their back for the Dutch. And slowly the idea started to take hold that the Dutch maybe have some responsibility for all these peoples. They imprinted the idea that all these different people actually were one, all under Dutch rule. This didn't really have the effect the Dutch anticipated though, because it's in these schools that ideas of independence begin to brew. Later, revolution leaders such as Hatta, Sharif and Sukarno get educated by the Dutch. They develop this idea of unifying.
I recognize the picture in the middle. I don't know where from though.
All these different peoples in one state based on the territory of the colony. The fight for independence and the creation of a nation-state from the rubble of this colonial empire is far from easy. The path to a modern Indonesia leads past insurrections, a fight with the former colonizer, and enduring internal insecurity. We will cover this path in part 2 of this series.
Interesting. Guys, if you want me to react to part 2, let me know in the comments. And I have a question. How was the flag of Indonesia formed? Like, what is the white and red? What does it represent? Because the Dutch flag also has white and red, but it also has blue, right? Does that have anything to do with it? Does white represent peace and red represent blood or war? I don't know. Is that like the balance? Let me know in the comments. Guys, this is a very interesting video. If you want to check it out, the link is in the description. And if you want me to react to more videos like this, let me know in the comments as well. I'll see you. If you have a request, there's a link in the description. And I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care for now. And don't forget, vote for Putri Ariani, America's Got Talent. Okay? Take care. Bye-bye. Now you can get full access to exclusive content, special reactions to shows, series, anime, full movies, and even request a video of your choice. Just become a YouTube member or join Buy Me a Coffee today. Find out more. The link is in the description.
Never break, always fight, never quit, do it right, play the game.